A couple of days ago I got diagnosed with autism, and obviously it's made for quite a reflective, thought-provoking few days, and I often quite enjoy just kind of expressing my thoughts and feelings about these matters as part of a little vlog. I don't think obviously the autism diagnosis will come as any great surprise to those closest to me in terms of the behavioural and emotional dysregulation that's often featured as part of my kind of livelihood, or obviously some of my quite kind of ritualistic and rigid sort of ways and practices, or how it's kind of coincided with some of my struggles with OCD over the years. But I suppose obviously more broadly, what obviously it's kind of led me to kind of think and reflect upon is that the quite lonely and sort of friendless and often quite hopeless sort of trajectory that life's been on in recent years. I mean, obviously it's no secret that I'm a political and current affairs addict. From the sort of age of 14, 15 onwards, the Labour Party made up kind of every spare kind of waking moment of my life, and obviously it was always what I aspired to do after university, was to work in and around Labour politics. And I was very fortunate to get my first Labour Party payroll position age 19 on a gap year, working on Sadiq Khan's first mayoral campaign, obviously within a relatively lowly, very insignificant, a minor role as a mobilisation assistant within Ealing and Hillingdon, but obviously a huge privilege and joy for me nonetheless. And then obviously I was fortunate to have various other political jobs over the coming year, on a second consecutive gap year working for Zana Alin Khan. But obviously all of this kind of grinded to a halt somewhat during university, when I was found myself the subject of a Labour Party suspension at the beginning of second years. And I think, obviously there's no doubt, as shown subsequently by the assistance and support of Mishcon Dereya into the tens of thousands of pounds, that the suspension was primarily factually motivated. It was vindictive. It stemmed from my success in uncovering and exposing significant levels of anti-Semitism and political crankery more broadly within Brighton Hove Labour Party during the Corbyn years, which obviously, as a city, locality, formed the kind of epicentre of a lot of the factional, battles and kind of, fights for the heart and soul of the Labour Party during that time, as it obviously, sunk into the political gutter somewhat. And I think obviously the truth is, and something that, obviously plays on my mind a lot now, that obviously I don't discuss very much, is that throughout that time at university, obviously I was suffering from very significant imprisoning and often quite hidden mental health struggles in regards to impulsivity, intrusive thoughts, compulsions, compulsive obsessiveness, and if you like, the Labour Party suspension and the kind of legal battles that subsequently entailed, and the way it, much of it played out online, kind of, formed became sort of somewhat of a kind of cloak, for some of those hidden mental health struggles. And undoubtedly during those years, very politically fraught, and divisive years in the Labour Party, my my behaviour online was regrettably belligerent and sometimes hot-headed, and obviously excessively confrontational. As proud as I was to uncover and expose the levels of anti-Semitism that I did within Brighton Hove and in other localities too within the Labour Party during that time, and obviously because of that, in that backdrop of some very regrettable and reckless social media conduct during those years, I think obviously it's led to a relatively socially isolated and friendless few years outside of politics for me, where undoubtedly my employability has been very adversely affected, and has felt like it's resembled somewhat of a pariah figure somewhat. And obviously, because of that, in recent years, as I say, I've been relatively sad and unfulfilled, and lost outside the world of politics and current affairs, and obviously detached from many of my formerly closest of friends and social circles in the world of politics that I spent years investing in and building up. So obviously it remains my dream and aspiration to go back into politics, or kind of current affairs, kind of / journalism in a professional capacity, and I hope I'm able to do that and resume the pursuit of those dreams and aspirations at some point. But yeah, obviously the autism diagnosis, and obviously what underpins it, has resulted in a very reflective and quite thought-provoking few days. So yeah, there we are.